Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. We've been doing a bunch of videos on the M12 Stubby impact, and this is a 3/8 impact. And we were looking at impacts, and I have the big half-inch heavy Super Duty Milwaukee impact, the M18. But I was looking at the Stubbies, and I really liked the performance that I saw a lot of videos showing on the Stubbies. So the question came down to which Stubby do I get? Do I get the 3/8 or do I get the half-inch? Now Milwaukee and the reviewers online claim that everything internally is the same except for the anvil, this one being a 3/8 size or the other one being a half-inch size. And I'll link them all in the description below. And you see a lot of people, just going into a junkyard or something like that and taking fasteners off or taking lug nuts off and show them what they did. Some of them are using the half-inch, some of them are using the 3/8, and some of them are doing some kind of torque tests on a bench. You have, professional testing guys that have a whole big setup. We're kind of doing, the DIY garage guy bolt and a vise kind of setup. And this is the third video. I'll link the playlist above. But it's very interesting what we've been finding out. So we started this test with a big bolt, right? This is a 5/8 shank, grade 8 hardened bolt that's got a 15/16 nut on it. And we did our first testing with this. Now because the nut is so big, we had to use a half-inch socket. So we used a half-inch impact socket. This socket weighs a decent amount, and we had to use an adapter, which we know, it's been proven, we know it does kill a little bit of torque. How much torque, that's up for some discussion, but it does. We had to step it down to 3/8. Okay, and we got our results with that big bolt and that socket, and it was pretty interesting, doing it the best we could do with a torque wrench, trying to find where the torque wrench didn't move it or where the torque wrench just moved it. We tried to narrow it down within 5 to 10 foot-pounds, and then we cut that difference within 10 foot-pounds, and we cut that difference in half to come up with a number, which, reasonably speaking, is fairly accurate. There are a lot of variables. There's, the bolt, the battery condition. I mean, these are new batteries, fully charged, that we used. We tried to keep as many variables out of it, but there still are always going to be tons of variables. Anyway, what we got on that one was 45 foot-pounds in mode 1, 65 foot-pounds in mode 2, 125 foot-pounds in mode 3, and 160 plus, maybe, foot-pounds. We estimated to 160. Our torque wrench only goes to 150, but we were able to reasonably estimate that it was north of 150, but it wasn't a tremendous amount north of 150. So we were calling it 160, and that was 7 seconds on. All the other blasts were about a second to a second and a half impact blast, nothing crazy. So then we went and we put a more reasonably sized fastener in. And what I mean by that is a lot of guys, especially my friends, they're like, yeah, you use this giant nut. I bet if you put more of a lug nut sized nut was something that you would actually find in a passenger car, a Jeep, or a light duty truck, you're going to get better results. Not that these results were bad, you're just going to get better results. So we stepped it down to a half-inch bolt, same thread pitch. It's a half by 13, grade 8 hardened, same way, same setup, same as this, just a smaller one, and it takes a 3/4 inch socket. So we grabbed a half-inch drive 3/4 inch socket, so that we were using the same adapter, same tool, same fully charged 3 amp hour battery. And as far as the batteries goes, we tested the 2s and the 3s in our first video and didn't see any difference in a 2 amp hour or a 3 amp hour, so we're staying with the 3 amp hour for now. We will test the 6 in an upcoming video. So everything else remained the same. The only difference was the socket. Something to note about the socket is this socket weighs a lot more than this socket. Using my 2-armed scale right here, this one could be double this one. It's at least 1.5 times this one. Alright, same adapter. And what happened? In mode 1, we almost cut it in half. It went from 45 to 25 foot-pounds. In mode 2, it went from 65 to 45 foot-pounds. And in mode 3, it went from 125 foot-pounds down to 85 foot-pounds. I thought it was going to go the opposite direction. So now we're trying to figure out why. And the best determination that I could come from the research I could do and just using some deductive reasoning was the mass of the socket. That the mass of the socket actually helps in the impacting and the tightening of the tool. Okay, another suggestion that I did see online, it's not my own, and then I thought about it and I said, yeah, that could be, was that even though the internals are the same except for the anvil, the weight of that 1/2 inch anvil as compared to the 3/8 anvil being so much smaller, that could play into it as well. So you have a weight difference in your spinning mass that's hammering when it's impacting. Is that what it is? I think that's the direction that we're going in. So now what I wanted to do was, we know what this 1/2 inch socket and the adapter does. Now we know the adapter kills a little bit of torque, but what if we took a 3/4 inch socket that goes on this? That's a 3/8 drive. Okay, smaller socket. If I do my 2 ohm scale, they're close. This one's a little lighter for sure than this one. So it's a lighter socket. So now, coming up with the third test, the lightest socket, it's going to go down in torque. We no longer have the adapter. So we're losing weight because we don't have the adapter, but we're gaining in torque because we're not using the adapter. How much will they cancel each other out? I don't know. I don't know what direction this test is really going. Everything that we're doing here is exactly opposite of what I thought. So I have my tool here. All right, this tool I've never actually used to do something with yet because we've just been using it for testing recently. I'm going to take out a fully charged 3 amp hour battery. These batteries are fairly new. We're going to pop it in. We're going to put it on mode 1. I'm going to put the socket in. I'll move the camera for you so that you can see what I'm seeing. And we're going to run through the test. Mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, and then we're going to give a 7-second blast on mode 3. All the other tests will be about 1.5 seconds, counting in my head. Nothing crazy scientific. We're trying to get a real world idea of the tightening torque. It's kind of difficult to do. Some people measure the tightening torque by how much torque it takes to loosen it, and then dividing by that error factor that they've come up with to be about 20% or so, saying that it takes 20% less torque to remove a bolt. So if you had it torqued to 100, it would only take 80 foot-pounds to remove it. But I don't have that kind of technology where a torque wrench that'll tell me, you know, where I went to. I have a regular old school torque wrench, and we're just going to try it like this because this is kind of real world to me. So I'll move the camera and we'll get started. Alright, so coming in on mode 1, I'm going to spin it down and I'm going to give it that 1.5 seconds. I counted in my head. Alright, you could count 1/1002 being your 1.5 seconds, or you could do 1 Nooga Dooga 2, whichever you decide. Alright, I did 1/1002 on that one. Okay, and now I got my torque wrench, and my torque wrench is set to 30, which is the lowest it goes. And you might see a little movement because the vise is mounted to a wooden bench, which is mounted to a wooden old kitchen cabinet, and there is a little flex in the vise and everything. What I'm looking for is I'm looking from the lines that I have on my socket here compared to where they are on the washer, to see if this moves. I'm not really concerned with this whole big movement. Okay, so I moved that nut just a hair before it clicked. So again, this is 30. This was not as tight as 30, so we're going to say there's no change there. We're going to go 25, which was the same as the 1/2 inch drive socket with the adapter. Alright, so we got the same results there. So now what we'll do is we'll loosen this up again. Okay, and I'm going to go on mode 2, and we're going to tighten and do the same thing. Alright, definitely a lot stronger on mode 2, as you could hear in the tool itself. And our previous test we were at 45, so let's move this to 40. And if everything stays the same, we shouldn't be able to move this nut at 40. And we can't. Nut didn't move at all at 40. So what I'm going to do is back this off. Okay, and I'm going to put it on again. And I'm going to bump this up to 50. Okay, got it bumped up to 50. And I'm going to watch my lines as they go into the washer. And I moved it just a hair. So, again, that's a 45 right there, because it didn't move at 40, and it moved just a hair at 50, 45. Again, no difference. Alright, so what's happening here? We have more overall mass, but we're losing torque on the adapter. On this one, we have less overall mass, but we don't no longer have the adapter, so they're kind of coming out the same. So now I'll take this off. Okay, and we're going to go in mode 3, and we're going to tighten. Alright, and that was the same thing, a 1 Ooga Dooga 2. So now if I go to my previous test results, that was 85 foot-pounds. So let's bring this up to 80 and see if we could turn it on 80. So we're at 80. No movement on 80, but I felt like it was close. So I am going to spin it off. Alright. And we're going to tighten again, just to make sure I stay tight in the vise. The vise does tend to loosen up during the testing from the shaking. That's why I check to make sure that vise is nice and tight. Alright, my stuff's not going to fall off my bench. And now we're going to go on mode 3 again. Alright, and now we can move this up to 90. Alright, 90 foot-pounds. And I just moved it a hair. So that was 90 foot-pounds, that moved it a hair, 80 didn't move it, so we're going to go 85. Which is the same as our previous test. Alright, so now after we pulled it off, we are going to try our 7-second blast. So I'm going to move this other stuff out of the way so everything doesn't fall down like it did the last time. And we're going to go with a 7-second blast once it hits. Alright. Definitely gets loud. So, our last test, the 7 seconds was 110 foot-pounds. So let's bring this to 100 and see if I can turn it. No turn. So we're going to loosen. And then we are going to tighten again for 7 seconds. Move this up to 110. So now at 110, no movement. seconds. We're going to move it up to 120. And we just slightly moved it. So we could call that 115. So we went up 5 pounds in that last one. All right, so in our unscientific testing, we went up 5 pounds with a 7-second blast in mode 3. For all the variables that there might be, I'm going to call that dead even as well. So what did we show? We showed that lightening up the socket compared to this socket, right? A standard half-inch drive, 3/4 inch impact socket, and a standard 3/8 drive, 3/4 inch impact socket. There is a weight difference, okay? The half-inch is heavier, all right? But we killed torque with this, so the mass difference in this setup compared to this one is the same as the torque loss that you might experience using the adapter, because our test results with these two are identical. However, on that bigger nut with this bigger, heavier socket, we got a lot, not better results, but a lot more torque. The gun was able to produce more torque to the fastener with the heavier socket. So I think that we can call that one pretty accurate, where we were thinking that the mass of the fastener has a correlation to the amount of torque the tool is putting out. Now, does this make this a bad tool? Not at all. I still think it's a good tool, but I'm kind of thinking that buying the 3/8 isn't the best option. Now, people say they buy the 3/8 because they can get into tighter places, because a 3/8 socket is generally speaking smaller, so you can get into tighter spaces. But your torque levels diminish using the 3/8 because of the lighter weight sockets. Where if you had a half-inch drive and you were using a half-inch socket with no adapter, all right, then your torque ratings might stay higher, and then when you want to go into a tighter spot, you could use a 3/8, but you would have to adapt the 3/8 down, which makes a bigger overall package. So you get some and you lose some going either way. A lot of people like to do lug nuts with these, and if that's going to be one of your main things, lug nuts, suspension parts, like brake caliber brackets, where the bolt sizes are pretty decent, maybe the half-inch drive is the place to go. If you're going to do a little more delicate work with this, meaning getting it into smaller places, then maybe the 3/8. I don't know, you gain a little and you lose a little in each. But I think for me, the smarter choice would have been a half-inch. But when it's all said and done, I mean, I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have guessed, I definitely wouldn't have guessed that that's what it was going to come out to. So now, just for, what do they say, shits and giggles? Just for shits and giggles, I'm going to go 150 foot-pounds, okay? Right there, 150 foot-pounds. I'm going to put the small 3/8 1/4 inch drive socket on. I got it in mode 3, and let's see if we can get this off. I ain't breaking 150 foot-pounds. Alright? That's something to think about when getting the smaller 3/8 tool, is if you really want to get off a stubborn fastener, you know, maybe the 3/8 tool ain't the one, even though internally they're the same with the exception of the anvil. Alright, so now let's go up the mass, but we got an adapter. Let's see what happens. you have it, 150 foot-pounds tightened, and I cannot get it off with either socket. Now, I didn't think, after I couldn't get it off with the 3/8 drive socket, that I was going to get it off with the bigger and heavier half-inch drive socket, because now I'm using an adapter and I'm killing torque. So, but we know at 150 foot-pounds, I ain't getting this thing off. So, the tool's got a 250 foot-pound rating. I tighten this to 150 foot-pounds. I shouldn't need 150 foot-pounds to take it off. I should only need about 130 foot-pounds. But we can't tighten, no matter how much we try, to 130 foot-pounds. We can tighten to 110-ish, 110 to 115 foot-pounds. So I kind of think that that we've ran the gamut on this one. The only other thing we could do is try that 6.0 battery that some claim give these tools more oomph. And that'll be in our next video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.